So
Canopy.
no canopy. We made that spar. We bought it with a spar, not
But it had some
installed.
bubbles in it.
Well, yeah. So basically, we were going to use it, but then I misdrilled these wing attachment holes the first time we drilled them. This is just a pass through. The real ones are on this side. The bushings are on this side. But I screwed up. Yes, no, I screwed up the wing attachment bolts the first time we drilled them, and so then we were tearing things apart to rebuild it, to see if we could rebuild it, and then so we just cut off the front face of the other one, and Moriah didn't like what she saw in there, so so and then we were just like,
So now you don't have to worry about the bubbles.
right. Well, so we got
a whole new spar.
Right, so a new spar, and then we, obviously installed it. Wings are over here, and the winglets are on them.
Were they built?
No, we did the wings and the winglets, and then this turtleback piece from here to here was built. We put the windows in, installed it, cut it, put the windshield in, did all this. The whole top deck we did. So, we put the controls in. I just put these latch pieces in. We're working on the cover here for the instrument panel. A really nice cardboard tooling here. so we'll get this. We'll have something here as well, so it'll be a complete surface. We'll lay up the fiberglass on top of it, and then this will all get torn back off.
So coated with aluminum foil and lay fiberglass over it?
Yeah, we usually either do packing tape or saran wrap. Either one is fine, I think. Actually, we haven't done saran wrap as much as the packing tape. That packing tape works great.
Because you can kind of put it wherever.
Yeah, but the saran wrap also, we're going to try that on this one because I think it's going to follow contours a lot better than packing tape. Because, the packing tape, it creates packing tape creates these weird corners when you bend it or around a weird contour, whereas saran wrap would just sit down nicely. So I want to try saran wrap on this one, but what else is going on? Right, so I haven't made the sump tank, but I just made this little. This is the size of it, so it looks like an arrow, right? So it's going to sit under the spar there. The back of this would be almost at the firewall. This would be where the drain or the feed would go, but.
I guess this is the slope of
this is the back seat, right? It's right up against the back seat, so it's there. And it could be taller, but I wanted it to be short so that I can get a wrench in here and I can uninstall the whole sump if I want to, for whatever reason. So I can get a wrench on this that connection there from the front. And then, of course, on the sides, we would need to have access to the landing gear bolts and the engine mount bolts would come through there, so it can't be super wide. It's only going to be this wide in real life. So, anyways, that's what that is.
So you figure how many gallons?
This will be 1.25 gallons. It's not big. Yeah, it's one.
What do you think your biggest crew will be? Passenger load,
Weight wise?
weight.
Well, so me and Moriah is 300 pounds together, something like that. Maybe a little higher, 310 maybe. But so we're building the 4-seat, right? Instead of it could be a long. I mentioned this earlier. We could build a long easy if we only wanted 2 seats, right? But this is 4 seats so that we can put kids in the back.
But you don't envision putting heavy people in there.
Kids grow up.
Yeah,
we could.
So yeah, we could. So basically, the empty weight.
6 feet tall. They have to
If the kids get so big that they don't fit, they can build their own damn airplane. So, but
Don't worry. By then, kids will not be involved with material objects.
Sure. But yeah. So the idea. So the whole plane should weigh somewhere between 1,000, maybe 1,100. 1150 at the most, hopefully.
That's it, with the motor?
With everything, empty weight, yeah. So I'm hoping for less than 1150, and the gross weight around 2050. So it's a little. So if you build it, the lightest ever built, probably a little over 1,000 pounds. So you have about 1,000 pounds of fuel and people, and then a payload. So as we get heavier, if the airplane winds up being 1,100 or 1,150, we get down to 900 pounds of payload.
Are you talking, when you say 11, are you talking about wet? You talking about fuel?
No, I'm talking about just empty weight. So it depends because we have aluminum landing gear on here, which
1,100 with engine?
yeah. So we have aluminum landing gear, which is a little heavier. We're gonna have I don't know what else, so we'll have to see how we end up with, like, because basically if your layups are a little too wet, you're gonna end up a little heavier, and the whole thing's made of fiberglass. So like that, when we worked at Bell, basically we would say plus or minus 15% on like thickness and weight. So like 50, we could end up 15% heavier.
That'd
Is
be
we kind of like
150
within
pounds.
But
expectation.
Bell's like mostly pre-preg, so
Yeah, so
not
like
that
what's
bad.
15% of it's like over 100 pounds. So here, let's just see this 0.15.
How big is the gas tank?
A little over 50 gallons total. So it's like 25 per side or 26 per side.
So you could get 300 pounds in it.
Oh yeah.
There's 150 extra pounds right there.
Of fuel?
Compared to 915.
Of fuel?
Yeah. Because
Oh well, yeah. We don't have to carry full fuel either, right?
No, what I mean is that that an engine that gets really good fuel mileage saves you a lot of weight.
Oh, absolutely. So
But
and that's
then
another
again,
reason.
but then again, you could extend your range to
Right. So that or that's why I was really interested in diesels because they're very efficient fuel wise. But we're not doing that. We're just going to go at this point where we are in the
I've
project.
been waiting
is-
for the diesels for 20 years.
Right. So at this point in the project, where we are is let's get it done. So I don't want to go super far off of the plans on anything. I mentioned before about the sump, so that's one of the main things. I don't think we have any other plans for crazy differences from it's just really small stuff. So like for example, we would normally have a door right here that you like on a long easy, you open a little tiny door, you reach your hand in and reach the latch. So
What are
that's
you gonna do?
so I'm gonna have a normal flush latch that pops out, and then it'll have a kind of a 4-bar mechanism, so it'll go like that, and then that way because people with that door, it's kind of silly, and people have air leaking through there, and that's right where your left hand on the stick is, so you don't really want cold air blowing on your hand the whole time. And it also doesn't see, the flush latch will be like a nice little upgrade, but that's super small stuff like that. So other than that, it's all like per plans.
So how many hours do you have in this already?
Oh God. I don't know. Like this has been like 3.5 years probably so far.
Well, that's nothing. Somebody in DC took 28 years.
Yeah, well, so like, but the guys that built the fuselage before us were probably working on it for over 10 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you add it up, but like for us, it's like 3.5 years. I have no idea. Like everyone will always ask, well, okay, when are you going to be done? And the answer is, whenever we're done, we're going to be done. So
Well, you've got wings, you've got the canard,
Right, so
you've
the
got
last-
the fuselage,
yeah,
the
so
landing
We're
gear.
90% done. 90% to go.
yeah, so for a composite airplane, the finishing stage is a big deal.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how long. Well, obviously, we haven't built the strakes yet. So right where you're standing would be part of the strake in here for the fuel, and that's the last
Oh,
major.
the fuel's in the straight.
Yeah, so that's the main last components that we have to build, and then it'll be we'll have throw the engine cowlings on the back, and then do all the finishing work probably first, and then try to get into electrical and instruments and all that, and put an engine on towards the end and see how
If
that
you get really organized, then your brain fills up the to-do list.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I don't have. I have like a rough flow chart, but I don't. We're not too into the details of everything yet.
And your strakes are pretty much scratch built, aren't they?
Yeah, they're just built from scratch, which is.
Is the cozy made from foam that you glass over?
Yeah. So I always have our like show and tell pieces here. So this is how the wings are built here. So you hot wire out this shape using our big hot wire cutter. So
Ooh,
Clearly a
This-
two-man job.
yeah, so you can see how long the wings are. This was built in three
The art of
big
holding up one
pieces. So each of the big pieces can be cut by this. And then
Oh, so each section's that long?
well, yeah, like that.
Not the whole
So
way.
yeah, not the whole way. But so there's 3 parts of the wing. Put them all together. Put the skins on. And it ends up looking at. So this is one of the joints of the.
So where did you get this piece from?
Oh, this is part that got cut off. So there's a in here the shape of this isn't quite square, so you cut off this angle, this little angle.
Yeah. So
That's a template.
we have some male templates here.
Yeah, that's not a good template because it gets that's just wood and it gets burned by the hot wire. So you end up with like little imperfections.
But there are no ribs per se. They're these separators.
Correct. There's no real ribs.
Yeah.
The volume.
There's one spot where there's a
And these are your plans here?
These are the planes, yeah. So this is we're looking at the headrests right here. So I'm building a headrest so that we don't have to prop it open with a stick. There's a gas strut that opens right. So this will hold the canopy open
Rather than a stick.
rather than a stick. So it's about 40 pounds. Right. So it's a Cozy Mk4. So it's the same as the Long Easy. Most people are familiar with the Long Easy. So same fuel system setup. Except we wanted to have a sump tank so we could eliminate the selector valve because if it was a high wing, you can have like a both setting, but this wouldn't normally have a both tanks on setting because of it's treated like a low wing where you would have to drive fuel out of the tanks. Whereas that's not really the case here. The sump tank is just below the main tanks here. So main tanks being in the strakes, kind of aligned with the main spar. So just below the main spar, which is not in this model here, but just below the main spar would be this little sump tank, which in real life would only be like maybe a little over a gallon, so maybe less than 2 gallons. So what we were trying to show is this little one-way valve. So when it would actuate and how effectively it seals it off, right? So if we get into a slip situation or if like with low fuel, so let's say we've almost exhausted both of these tanks and we're kind of like running low on fuel. So this is, let's just say these are empty and all we have is the sump tank. If you get into a slip, you don't want to lose your fuel out of the sump, right? So this isn't going to really demonstrate that because it could just flow from the high side into here. But I can run this pump for a little bit and shoot some fuel out here and empty these tanks, and you can kind of see when this will actuate and seal it off. So this will always have fuel in it. And the other advantage is if we were to lose a fuel cap, the fuel might evacuate from the whichever side, but we'd still have fuel on the other side filling it. So we always have fuel, always have fuel in the sump. And then this is a vent manifold, so we've got vent lines coming up here. And I did it differently on both sides to see if there's any noticeable difference at various angles of attack, etc. or slip angles. But yeah, so I made the distinction here. This is like slip angle, right? Because if you're banking, the fuel is still even, right? It's not a bank angle; it's a slip angle. So it's really just, let's say you're low on fuel, and then you're doing a slip to get in, because whatever you needed to get into make the landing work, right? So you came in too high, you want to do a slip, and so this way you don't have to worry about the sump. There's always going to be fuel in the sump, right? So yeah, I can run the pump here. If we had a bucket or something to shoot the water into, it's going to come shooting out of the nose here on the pressure side. There's one in the basement somewhere.
Are you going to have a check valve on both tanks?
Yeah, both tanks. Yeah, so I'm showing these two tanks are set up differently just to see what the difference would be. So this way, it's kind of like a control and an experiment, right? And so you can see the difference. So if this is actually doing anything, or is the difference? This one has a kind of like a leading edge vent and a trailing edge vent. This side only has the vent in the front; it doesn't have the one in the back. So, and then of course all the vents.
This is the front here.
This would be the front, yeah. And then I have the pump down here, so we can kind of just play with it and shoot water out of it and everything. And the little fill cap here.
Does the Cozy have a sump tank?
No, it doesn't. Right. That's part of why I built this model, because I wanted to be comfortable. Because what are the accidents in general aviation? It's
100% is fuel.
It's fuel, right? So it's like fuel starvation. So this is like to kind of convince ourselves that this is going to work, and that the like I said, all of the little changes that we're making make sense. So it doesn't make sense to test it in flight, in my opinion. It makes sense to kind of be confident before you.
And you can test it on the ground, I guess.
Yeah, I guess if you like crank up your
Well,
airplane.
you know, people do that to make sure the hoses deliver as
Okay.
much fuel
Can
as
you just hold
they
it
could.
back there? All right, so I'm gonna just run this, and we'll just see it shoot. So it's shooting fuel out the top here. We got some bubbles here. Now this pump runs clearly faster than this is refilling by gravity, because these are gravity filling into the sump, and pretty soon here this is gonna suck air. Right now, see, there's air in here, and
Motor's
it's cavitating. Yeah, right. So this isn't really like a one-for-one, like apples to apples model of what's going to happen in real life, because this pump is obviously pumping faster. So, but that is potentially a problem, right? So like if we have to figure out if that's going to happen in real life, because that's exactly the situation that we're trying to avoid here, is the fuel starvation. So this is, yeah, like I said, it's not
If
like
this was invented here, would this just suck the gas out of this tank?
right. So there needs to be a vent somewhere, right? So yeah, if we got rid of the sump,
There's this connection here and vented it through these tanks, then pulling fluid out of here would suck it in from.
correct. Yeah, that's true. It would suck it more like right away, I guess. So that is an option. But yeah, I kind of wanted to have everything equalized, but that is something that we could play with for sure on that model. Is like snip that off, seal it up, and play with that and see how it does. Yeah, that's an option.
All right. So what's next for this grand experiment here?
Okay, I guess we should I kind of want to empty the water out and just show the the valve actuation here. So Moriah, can you do the pump again, or can you hold it? So this might take a couple tries to get all the fuel out. So yeah, we got still a lot of fuel in here. So we'll keep going. Maybe take it back and help.
So I guess the valve restricts the flow, and you have to figure out whether that's enough gallons an hour.
Well, so
Keep the
it
motor
does.
running.
These are 1/2-inch tubes, but this is meant for a 3/8 inch tube. So yeah, we are limited. Like they don't make a 1/2-inch version of that valve. So yes, that is limiting. It is a 3/8 tube is what it's designed for. So okay, I think we're at a point where we can sort of see. Maybe I kind of want to just drain this whole tank entirely, and then we can see more.
What size fuel lines does the cozy call for?
3/8.
3.
Yeah. And then of course these might be 3/8. So yeah, the diameter of the vent lines isn't really like per real life, I guess, or anything like that. Okay, I think we're at a place where we can see, because this tank has a little more, but let's just try it. If I tilt it one way, we should see. You can bump that, I guess. So you might be able to see we're flowing fuel from the upper tank into this tank, right? That's what's supposed to happen.
I don't think going to the other. Oh, because of the valve.
Well, yeah, it should. All right, this is trying to empty out this high tank entirely, or like pretty close to being entirely. So
Is this a crosswind landing for
right, this would be basically this would be like a slip, right? We're in a slip situation here.
That's quite a slip there.
Is this dumping out or not? Because it should be, right? Or no? Okay, yeah. So we're in a slip. We've run out of fuel in the top tank, but we still have fuel here, right? This isn't going to go into that tank, and so that's what we're seeing. So we can also tell what angle that valve actuates at, right? So I guess we would need this tank to be empty also to see that, really. Or if you really watch closely, you can see if any fuel is coming out of that tube. But so here's like a little lower angle, and I don't see any coming out. Now, of course, the feeds from here into here, comes into towards sort of the top. So yes, there is like this is changing altitude here, if you will, or elevation slightly. So that also helps not drain out the whole tank. If this were to not actuate, you'd probably still have like some minimum amount that wouldn't flow out. And yeah, you're not going to hold this for an hour. You just like drop down and quickly, level out again. But
Should it start to flow back into this tank now?
Right. So yeah, it should. Yeah, it should. There's no one-way valve on this side, so it should flow. Yeah, you can see the water coming out here. It's going to flow freely into this
So you
side.
have to bank it to get it to go over there.
If this was higher, it would just go over it.
Right. Whereas if there was a valve here, it would never flow back. Right.
So you're avoiding having two valves or having a valve to...
No, I'm just showing the difference. So basically the difference of having the one-way valve or not. So here we are losing. So here, like you can see, the level is going to go down. If this tank emptied entirely, there is some level below which this won't go. So yeah, right now it's just about empty, but it's still flowing into this tank, right, from here to here. So is it necessary? Probably not, because like there's still some in here. So, but it's just to see the difference, and so we can play around with it. And like you said, we can also, it's basically, it's a model to experience. That's the whole point of it, was to experience, like, see the difference. And then we can, like you said, we can also snip that and seal this up, so we can see the difference of that. If we get a better flow rate, or does it not flow back into the sump correctly because this isn't vented?
I guess if you got these one-way valves to keep it going from here to there, here to there, and you don't have a vent.
Yeah, if we had
Because
valves
it'd be air
and
bubble.
So you kind of can't do all three of those necessarily.
The main goal is to keep the engine turning, right?
But yeah, so we always want to have the whole point was just so we can see that whether or not there'd always be fuel available. So, anyways, I guess anybody else have anything?
Yeah, so I have done motor gliding with this, but I've
I've never really done a lot of thermaling because it's very violent with the parachute, with the wing. Because if you come out of when you hit a thermal, it's like hits you like this, and then when you come out, it wants to dive. Like your wing will just dive and surge, and it's like a rough ride.
Well, I finally understood what the shoulder harness is for when I was trying to soar.
Yeah, you come out of the seat. But so the other thing that's hard with motor gliding with this is restarting it in the air, because I have to pull this. So imagine you're sitting in a swing. This is basically like sitting in a swing set, right? Because you're getting held up by these 2 points.
Yeah.
So you're essentially in a swing set. Try to start it in a swing set. It's very difficult.
And then
A Newtonian problem.
I have done it in flight a few times.
That's a bad characteristic of the Sonex, is that the VW won't restart when you dive. So
What type of engine is that?
it's a 2-liter.
No, on this.
Is it 20th century?
This is it's called Vitorazzi. It's an Italian. That's the company right there, Vitorazzi. They Italian, for some reason, there's not like of all of the paramotor engines, I think at least 2 of them are made in Italy.
Well, the kids in Italy, when they're 12 or 13, they get these little 2-cycle things, and they squeeze a lot of power.
Well, I think there's also a decent amount of mountainous areas in Italy where you can just jump off with no engine at all. And I was actually more interested in. I started out trying to do some hang gliding lessons, and that wasn't for me because I'm not good at basically controlling it, and I got into this turn that I couldn't get out of, and on one of my launches, and it just was. I was like, I'm never doing that again. Because I
tighter and tighter, or you just
I just couldn't straighten it out because I'm doing this, and then I'm keeping in this left turn. And I ended up landing at a slight left turn, and I was just like, all right, this is not for me. But
what's the best place to fly this around this region?
So I go up to Oregon Ridge. There's also other places, but
They're less legal.
that are So the main thing is like people, because I tried to just go to some farm fields, but people really don't like you flying on the farm fields because they're like, oh, you're going to scare the horses, and people have a lot of money in horses that are worth more than me. So you don't want to like hit a horse or something or scare whatever to piss people off. Because the main thing, like that's how you get things shut down, is when you piss the wrong person off, and then they're like, oh well, no more of this.
I landed in a sod farm once.
Well, so yeah, landing is different.
but
Like, hey, I had to
luckily the
come
guy
down.
was on vacation.
Yeah. Well, so there's actually a big fly-in for these. It's not a fly-in, it's a drive-in, right? Because no one flies it anywhere. But there's a big drive-in at a sod
cross
farm.
country.
It's too slow. It's like you could, but I have to be able to land on my feet, right?
Oh, yeah,
So
you
it's
gotta
not
go
very
slow.
fast. So actually, on the landing, what I like to do is sort of put down one of my landing gear first, and just sort of like put one down and kind of slide for a bit. And
Yeah.
just take like 2 steps. It's like slide and like boop boop, and then you're landed. That landing's really nice on these, but taking off is a lot of effort
have to
because yeah, you got to run it out. So, and not because you have to push it. The engine's going to push you.
But you have,
But you have
your
to
weight
keep up.
supported.
You have to keep up until it's taking the weight, and then
as you come off,
and even after
you're
just
about
like-
ready to pass out.
yeah. So yeah, you have to be in good shape for this.
It's
Really
a
good
little
shape
bit
for
for
this.
families.
I had right, yeah, and I have considered building a little trike for it, but I never